feedback, thoughts, comments, that sort of thing, and again, there's the evaluation form underneath that. So again, just a big shout out to our virtual participants. If you've got your microphone on, could you please mute that, just so we get a bit of feedback here in the room. Switch ahead anyway.
Okay, folks. Thanks to Ben for the invitation to be here. All right, I'm going to kick off and I'll just get Ben to tinker with the levels and things. Can everyone hear me okay? Not thinking about that, though? Okay. I'm going to tie myself a little bit to the lectern because I'm going to give some demonstrations on the screen, so I won't be able to move around as much. But thanks for the invitation to be here today. It's good to make contact with you again. I haven't spoken to TLs for a little while now, so it's good to be able to do so. I want to take you through a bit of information about the recent upgrade to your school portal. Hopefully you're pretty familiar with what the school portal is and does, but if you're not, we're going to start with some of the basics, go back to a real bird's-eye picture of what these school portals are, what value we intend them to add to your school, and I'm going to give you a bit of a challenge to you guys as teacher librarians that in your schools you guys are actually really well placed to be pretty actively involved in your school portal and the implementation in your school and how it's organised, because really as information professionals, TLs are pretty well placed to give advice to leadership and IT in the school about how it is that these things can be well organised to be able to retrieve information from them. Okay, so what are these school portals and why the name portal? A portal, I think, was a term that I think Microsoft might have either coined or jumped on the bandwagon of using, and the connotation is that it's an entry point into other places. So you enter the internet through this portal. We intended it to be a home page for everyone in the school, whether they be a staff member or a student. We wanted when you click on a browser for your school portal to open up, and for a few different functions that were available to you. One of the other key points was that we wanted it to be a place that hosted all the applications, and so hence those smarty icons that you would have seen in the old school portal at the top, the circular icons. We spent a fair bit of time making sure that once you are signed into the school portal, you can automatically be signed into all the other applications, whether they be in Nerva, Oliver, etc. We wanted these to be available anywhere, anytime, so whether you were logging in from home or in school, or if you've gone away to a school camp and you need to upload some stuff from there, or even a training day like today, you can still get access to this information that you have stored through your school. Lastly and not least, we intended these school portals to be a safe environment where I know there's been the temptation over the years to go and create a series of accounts for your kids to be able to get into this resource and that resource. School portals are a bit of an attempt to try and create a dashboard or a space where you can aggregate a few of those things into the one location. So rather than having to consume external resources that may or may not be compliant with Australian privacy principles, etc., it may be a place where you can meet those needs in a different way in the one location where your kids can have one account to be able to get into the resources that you've set up for them. All right, so they are some of the key goals of setting up our school portal. What about the history of these things? The history of these things goes back to about when Kevin Rudd took the reins and was talking about giving the stimulus money to schools and to various organisations. We knew that one of the impacts of that was going to be that laptops are going to start arriving in schools, and really that was the start of a real change of practice in schools. And more than just being able to give out equipment to kids and saying, well, there you go, there's your device. We wanted to have some online experience for teachers as well as kids to be able to work towards. So our first cab off the rank was to get a staff portal up and running. So about 80 schools initially took up the offer of having a staff portal. And later on, we invested in an upgrade to that around about 2010, and that digital revolution, I suppose, was really taking place by then. It was really an influx of hardware into schools, and by that stage it was becoming more obvious that we needed a student experience as well. So we built in a student experience to the school portals in advance of Life, the new learning management system that was to come later. Over those intervening years, you would have been, I would imagine, pretty familiar with the school portal that was then. So that was from a previous iteration. So in your school portal, we have a structure that reflects the security needs and the information needs of most schools. At the top level, at that sort of transparent box at the top, you've got your top level of your school portal, and in there, the two main features we've got are the school portal and the announcements. School calendar, I should have said. School calendar and your school announcements, these are tools that we intend for you to, and for your students and your staff, just to be able to find out what's going on and who's doing it in your school. And for the most part, schools get a lot of value out of those. From there, we're going to dive off into the staff portal if you're a member of the staff group, and to the students if you're a student group. In the recent upgrade, we've upgraded these, and we've got a few new features in there, and I'll go in live in a minute to a few school portals, and we'll have a look and see what you can do in there. For the most part, the staff portal, this is where the bulk of your document storage is. You'd probably be aware that in the past, whereas you might have previously had access to file server, file shares, we've sort of moved away from that era, and we're moving into an era where we're doing these things online. Why is that? Well, there are a lot of advantages to storing your documents online, one of which is that you can get access to these things from wherever. Back in the days where we were using these file servers, unless your school paid to have a whole bunch of work done and expose your file servers to the internet, that was a pretty expensive piece of work. Most schools didn't have access to it, so you had to be logged on to the school network to be able to get access to those files. Well, now you can get access to them from wherever. ICT issues, this is a way of managing any of the help desk, sort of local help desk issues that you might have within your school. Away Today, a new little tool to help teachers pass on information to a relief teacher that might be taking over from them for the day. Classes is our attempt to add a bit of value to teachers needing to interact with kids and share information with kids. I think you'll see some value in that. OneDrive, this is us taking advantage of some of the new online tools that Microsoft are providing in the Office 365 space. And under other lists, it looks pretty innocuous, it looks pretty undervalued there, but that's actually a pretty powerful tool. You can create lists in your school portal that will do a lot of different things. It could be that you've got a list of links, hyperlinks that you want to make available to kids or teachers. You can create those quite simply. It could be that you want to create document libraries for people to store things in for a range of reasons. You can do that quite simply in the school portal. How do you do that stuff? I'll take you through the training options later on, but it's pretty simple for you guys to book yourselves in. There are training options available for you, and I'm sure if you wanted to be involved, it would be quite conceivable that your leadership team would be happy to add you to that leadership or school portal administrators group within your school, and let you do some of this work. Student side of things, we've got I suppose the sibling arrangement of the teachers, where you've got classes in OneDrive. We're trying to build a bit of interaction there between the staff and students, and again, you've got the ability for schools to create lists and libraries as required. Support, how do we give support for these things? Well, one of the key ways we do that is by training up a group of people in schools, the School Portal Administrators Group. We give them pretty high level of control over school portals. They can create, as I was saying, lists, they can create libraries, they can do limited editing within their site, they can create sub-sites. I know of a few sites, a few schools around our archdiocese where the TL has created their own sub-site in there. They've put in resources like links to databases. It might be you have a subscription for your database where you need to pass on the username and password to people. So there are TLs who have gotten us involved and gotten some help in doing that. We have an online support site. We generally have a pretty comprehensive list of information up there. We're a bit short on information on that online support site at the moment, but we're working pretty hard, and we will be over the next few months to add to that. And finally, we have our service desk who can answer your questions. I'm going to leave the PowerPoint there, and I'm going to jump into some school portals live, and we'll just have a look through some of these things a little bit more. Thank you. And we'll jump into some of these portals and have a look and see what sort of things you should be able to do. Can I just have a show of hands if you are aware that you've got a new school portal and you've been in there and had a bit of a look around? Actually, would you like to try it? I hope you received emails over the break. We obviously had to target a part of the year where there was limited use of your school portal, so hence all that activity over the Christmas holidays. All right, so new school portal. At the top, as I was saying, we have our announcements and our calendar. There's more to the announcements and calendar that you might not have realised under the hood. We've invested pretty heavily over the years in making these things talk to other systems. So, for example, if I'm creating an announcement in here and I wanted to make that same announcement available to my parents, rather than me having to go to the parent portal and make a separate announcement, I can simply use the same wording and the same information and just tick the audience that I want down there, and it's automatically going to be pushed out, duplicated and pushed out to my parents. I can do the same to my public website. The other aspect to that people might not be aware of is that if you've implemented the use of the BCE Connect app in your school, that information becomes available on the app as well. And there are ways, for example, if I check the BCE Connect push, there are ways of making that message push out to your parents' mobile devices so that it pops up with a message on the lock screen of your device. I'm not sure if you're familiar. I've got one here. So on the lock screen of my phone there, it's going to be hard for you to see from where you are, but there's just a missed phone call. So a push notification comes up in the same way that you would see a missed phone call. All right, so that BCE Connect push is a pretty useful function. It operates as a free messaging and an instant messaging system to parents if they've got the BCE Connect app loaded onto one of their on their iPhone or their Android phone or an iPad, etc. That BCE Connect app, for those of you who are not aware of it, operates as a bit of an on-the-go version of what you would otherwise see in a parent portal. So rather than you having to log onto a laptop, we've created a BCE Connect app, so it's a sort of a light version of what's in that parent portal. All right, so there are these points of integration between announcements and calendar and those other sites, so that people can get easy access to this stuff. We built in a prayer to the top of the page there if you're the APRE in your school, or if you've got responsibility for this sort of thing, you can load up prayers that will change automatically on particular dates throughout the year, so you can organise that at the beginning of term and set and forget. Applications over here, this is the replacement for the Smarties that went at the top of the screen. The Smarties were pretty handy for schools, however schools didn't have any control over what appeared there. It was the sort of thing where we couldn't really make available with the technology we had then, the ability for you to do that. We have built that in now, so if you're in that School Portal Administrators group that I mentioned earlier, you can click on that applications link at the top there, or you can click on the title, pardon me, the link over on the menu bar there, and you'll be taken to this management page. And in here, the school can augment that list of applications with some of their own. So you'll find the VCE ones float to the top, and thereafter any of the ones that the school wants to put in. This paper cut one was something that the school puts in, has put in. Parent portal has been added by the school as well. So I can create school applications through that within there. The other thing you might notice on the home page of your school portal is that you'll now see timetable information. This might not suit primary schools as much as it does the secondary schools, but what we've tried to do is to start adding some time management features for kids, just to help them be responsible and know what's coming up. Previously to this, the only way for the kids to be able to get access to the timetable was either to get in it, save it somehow, and take it with them on a device, or print it out and take it with them in a book. So having this enables the kids to get access to that stuff from home. From there, I'm going to dive off into the staff portal and we'll have a look and see what's in here. In this school, we've got some, is anyone from Ashley here, by the way? Probably should have asked if I headed into a school portal. Is that okay if I put it in school? Have a bit of a look through it. I often find that when folks come to a training day like this, it's one of the things that BCO can really add value by showing ideas that other schools have implemented. So I'll show you a couple of good ideas that St Victor's have implemented in their school portal all the way through. So obviously we've got our libraries up at the top, an image library and some document libraries. This is where we intended that most of the document storage activity happens in your school. There are other ways to do it. You can put your document libraries in sub-sites and things like that, so there are ways to do it that look a bit different to this, but you know, in 99% of cases, a document library in your staff portal is a nice, secure, convenient and functional way of storing your documents. What do? They just enable me to store documents. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything new here. The new information I can give you about these things is that they are a lot more functional than they were. This is the online version of SharePoint, which means that it's being hosted on brand new Microsoft technology. It means that if I've got a window here, I can drag very simply a document out of my documents folder over onto either a folder here. I can drop it onto a folder, or I can just drop it onto a blank area in there, and it's going to automatically upload. If you're using various browsers, you can now upload folders as well. That's been a big bugbear for a lot of people, is you haven't been able to upload folders before. You can now do that. Unfortunately, we're a little bit limited by the technology that some of the browser companies have implemented. So it's really only at this stage Chrome and Edge. Thank you. Chrome and Edge, mental blank. Chrome and Edge that will let you do that. Which sort of begs the question, well, what browser should I be using? There are various different opinions about this. I know our CIO is pretty keen for us to mention that Edge is a good option. I think it's a little bit more nuanced. I think people will find that there are horses for courses. There are some browsers that work well in some things, others that work well in others. I'm going to leave it up to you to work out. We'll provide advice about that, but I think that Chrome and Edge have been pretty good experience in school portals. One function, if you're a Windows user, that you may have been used to using in the past is Open with Explorer. Can I just have a show of hands of anyone who uses Open with Explorer to manage their files? You may or may not be familiar with it. I'm just going to address that quickly for those of you who do like to use that. That function has now moved over under this little information icon. It's still there. No, might tell a lie, sorry, my apologies. It's the one next to it, all documents. And if I was in, I won't bother going into it now, I'm just going to quickly demonstrate this, quickly describe it. If I was in Internet Explorer, and Internet Explorer is the only browser that has ever allowed this to operate, I would go down into this list here, and there's an option there for Open with File Explorer. The name's slightly changed, it still does the same thing. We believe that Microsoft will probably try and phase that out. I don't think they're going to do it tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be around for all that long. Fortunately, they've started to add a few more functions that make it a bit easier to manage files in different ways. We have noticed that Open in File Explorer function is a little bit less stable, a little bit less, performs a little, not quite as well as it used to. So there are some options for that. Please feel free to ask questions as you go through, folks. Don't let me just ramble and leave out questions at the end.
I have one. I'm back where the prayer thing was.
Oh, prayer.
What happened to the image rotator?
The image rotator, look, we took the view that with the image rotator, Chris, that the school portal was more of a workhorse than a show pony, and so we sort of de-emphasised the stuff that was look and feel oriented, and it's a little bit difficult to.
We're missing it.
You're missing it? Yeah. I'll give you a quick look at some of the problems that we faced with that. There were some schools that took really nice quality photos of their brand new cameras and ended up with photos that were about 5,000 by 4,000, 3,500 pixels. Yeah, I'll take the point, but we had to support it. And ended up with 20 photos in a document library. The way the browsers operate is that they drag all 20 photos down into the working memory of the computer, and only at that point does it release the page and let you work with it. So there were problems in implementing it for some schools. And whereas I know that there are some schools that have gotten past that problem when we're using it effectively, we just took the view that it wasn't adding all that much value, and it was better off that we just dropped it. And we have taken a few decisions, some might call them brave decisions, to drop a couple of things that we thought provided a little bit less value and made it more expensive and more difficult for us to provide support to schools. And for that reason, you'll find a few things where you had a little bit less control over the school portal than previously, but we think that there are plenty of other new features that well and truly make up for that sort of thing.
One question I've been asked,
Please.
Daisy, where's favourites? Where do you kind of mark, what you want to go back to? Is that follow or?
Follow is an interesting concept. It doesn't really act as a favourite in that sense. My answer to that question, I think, would be to use the favourites in your browser. What's your favourite browser? Well, in this case, I'm using Chrome to demonstrate. I could be using Edge. In any case, I've got my favourite set up across the top, and there's no easy answer to this.
Unless you mean quick links.
Quick links, you might mean the text quick links that we used to have sitting down under the bottom of the page in the staff portal. Yep, there was a quick links area down the bottom there. Are you talking about the text links that were down the bottom of the...
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Again, we took the view that because schools could now add their own applications into this menu up here, that wouldn't be missed, given that schools could have their own tiles up there. And the other aspect to that answer is that schools were really asking a lot about tile-based navigation. They really wanted us to add in some sort of tool where...
on the side still though. Quick links is there under links.
Yes, quickly. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. You're right. We've taken the web part off, but left the quick links list over here, so you can still get access to the... Whatever links you had saved in there should still be there from... And I'm sure these would have been migrated over from the previous portal.
Sorry, account management has disappeared off that site.
Account management looks like it's disappeared at the moment. I'm going to give you a bit of a look at that in a minute. It was unfortunate that it's been invisible to you for the last few weeks. We had in mind that it would be available at the beginning of school. There was a quirk in the way that Microsoft have changed some of the ways they've operated, and they've sort of changed direction very quickly, and we are catching up. But we've got to redesign a few things to try and catch up with them. However, one of the things you'll notice, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute, is that a new icon will appear on the page, and it will allow you to do exactly what you're asking for. It's been released to me for testing today, and I'm hoping to have that out to you in the next few days.
Thank you.
So there'll be an email to all schools as soon as that's available to your school portal administrators. So apologies if that's caused some angst at the beginning of this year. It is that time of year where you do want to reset some passwords. It's just one of those things that we weren't able to have available from day one. From day one though, the service desk has been geared up to do password resets for you. They can do whole class resets, they can do individual student password resets as well. So don't forget that that service is available.
You can still get into that feature if you go to your old school portal.
Very clever of you to mention that. Yes, you can still get to your own school portal. You can still get to the account management feature in there. Very well observed.
How long?
For how long? That's a good question. We haven't really planned out exactly how long those portals are going to remain. The last time we did do a migration of school portals from 27 to 2010, we did leave them there for a while afterwards, and we found that a few months later, people were still noticing that, oh, I'm just going to look for that content today, and I realised that it hasn't come across from the and then they'd come and log that with us, and we would retrieve it from us, retrieve it for you. So I think it'd be premature for us to turn it off yet. I can't give you an exact date, Coach, I'm not sure. Okay. Any other questions while we're in a bit of a question mode? Happy to answer questions as we go along, folks. You're not interrupting. Okay. Yeah, please.
The application, who puts those up?
So BTO are responsible for the first tranche of those at the top there. I won't give an exact number because it'll probably flux, but the school has the capacity to create those, and those will float underneath the BCO one. So in your school, you have a group called the School Portal Administrators. They've got God rights in your portal. They can create it. Okay, let's put our staff hat on now, and we'll go a little bit further into what the staff site allows me to do. You can now see that I've got these teaching and learning tools, these classes and OneDrive sections here. That's really all about documents and sharing with kids. What does it do? If I click on my classes tab, and our technicians have linked my identity to the identity of a real teacher in a secondary school, so I can do it as a demonstrator here. So if you wonder why you're seeing timetable classes in my space, that's why. I'm now seeing my timetable classes here. So if I click on 8 English 4, I'll now see and I'm just going to zoom out. Sorry, zoom the other direction, just to give you a better example of what is visible in there. Now, if you're looking at your screen, or if you can remember what your screen looks like, you'll notice that there is an icon or a row, a column of icons missing from yours, and that's what I was alluding to earlier when the questioner asked about password resets. This is what we wanted to make available to you, and as soon as our security groups are sorted out and flattened, then that icon will be visible. What that allows me to do is to go to Jasmine's entry, and it's going to say, hey teacher, I want you to just pop your password in again so that we know you really intend to do this, but it will then let me reset Jasmine's password individually on the school portal without having to go looking. The other new feature in terms of password management that we didn't have available before is this one at the top. Now, on the version we've got here, it's not the full implementation of what we're going to release in a minute, or in the next couple of days, but what this will allow me to do is to reset the password for my whole class in one fell swoop, and there will be two options. You can either, if you've got a class from prep to year 3, reset the password so that it's all the same password, or you can change it so that it's a different password for every child in the class for your year 4s and up. That's generally our recommendation. Prep to 3, it's reasonable to think that you could keep the same password for every kid. Beyond that, we reckon that most kids should be capable of managing their own individual password.
Scott, how do you sort of get classes assigned to you?
That all happens through the timetable. Now I know TLs are in a bit of a tricky position, or have been in the past. Fortunately though, however, we can and I probably should have pointed this out to this audience, but under other classes, I now see every class in my school.
But can you go in there, because like normally I always use the account management to reset student passwords and whatnot. Can I do it through?
You can do it through other classes now. So if I were to go to 2 Red, I don't need to be the teacher of 2 Red to see those names. I can now, as any member of staff on that school, see every staff, every child, every document library.
I don't have those 3 icons on. I only have the link and the envelope. I don't have the.
You don't have that final column. Right, that's what I've been saying is missing from yours. You will see 3 icons. That last column where you see the password reset, that won't be visible to you until we do our next release in a couple of days. We're getting that to you as quickly as we can. But yeah, that's the bit that's missing. That's your account management function. Yep, just to say again, you can reset an individual, so I can go to Chloe's password and I can reset her individual password. Alternatively, I can go to the whole class at the top under 2 Red and I can reset the entire class's password in one. Something that you could previously only do through the service desk.
Can you print them out then?
It will allow you, once you've done it, to download a spreadsheet of all the passwords for the class, and it will allow you to print them out, keep them on file, keep it in the bottom drawer, email it to the whoever asks you, etc.
So it's got every teacher.
Good question. Lonnie's question was, does every teacher have the ability to do that? There is a super group of password managers in your school. We would like your principal just to give the okay that they want you in that group. So it just requires an email from the principal to the service desk to say, hey, service desk, we'd like all staff at our schools to have permission to reset passwords. We'd like these 3 people in our staff to have permission to reset passwords. It's up to you. We just want to have your principal's imprimatur before we go and do that, because we don't want to create chaos with passwords in your school with the right hand not left hand to do it.
Is the principal currently the only person with that, do the administrators have that access?
We've put the school leadership team in as ex officio members of that, so they are automatically included. But we just want we just want to hear directly from the principal to say that it's okay for us to add you guys into that super group of password managers.
And do you have to know the old password to change it in that?
No, you don't. No, you don't need to know the child's old password to change to reset it. I think it was part of the question.
Who does the principal email?
Just the service desk. Yeah, just go through service now and say, I would like the such and such group to have access to password resets at our school. All right, some other things that your teachers can now do in here. I can go to each child here and I can click on the row of documents. If you're familiar with the way that my sites work and have been working over the last couple of years, you'll be familiar with these first 2 icons. The first one takes me to this child's documents storage. Instead of now being stored in their My Site though, we've started to take advantage of OneDrive. What's OneDrive? OneDrive is a personalised document storage facility, that's all it is. I'm not sure that Microsoft have named this beautifully because it can be a little bit confusing the way that Microsoft have used the naming, but OneDrive is a personal document sharing space where students can confidentially store their documents, and I say confidentially because the other kids can't see it. Staff, however, can. The kids can't hide your document from you. As a member of staff at your school, you will be able to see the document storage for each child in your whole school, right? Not just in a class.
Every teacher can, or just?
Every
teacher can.
Every teacher at the school can see the document storage for every child in the school. Each child can only see their own. When I click on this child, I'm expecting it to be empty except for that shared folder. Right, that's expected behaviour. This is all quite new. There are very few schools that have been using OneDrive up until now. now that we've baked it into the school portal, I'm expecting more schools to start taking it.
What's the difference between OneDrive and OneDrive for Business? Because we were told to use OneDrive for Business.
Right, good question. OneDrive and OneDrive for Business. This is one of those points of confusion, I think, that Microsoft have been working with, and to some extent it's understandable. They have been sort of, I suppose, experimenting and trying to find out which model of their products works best in the user community. And where they are at the moment is that they are merging the idea of OneDrive for Business and OneDrive, and they're trying to bring them together. I think they're probably hearing loud and clear from people that OneDrive for Business, OneDrive is a little bit confusing. Hey, can't you amalgamate them somehow? I think they're listening to that and they are starting to do that. So I think we'll probably hear a little bit less of that. Are they still called two different things? Yes, there are still two names floating around. The sort of OneDrive we're talking about here is OneDrive for Business, because we bought the right to roll out OneDrive as an enterprise, as a whole of Brisbane Catholic Education. Therefore, because we are not a private entity, we are using OneDrive for Business. So does that help? All right?
Scott, does that mean now if they have my site documents,
Yes.
and they're now their OneDrive documents, are they all now visible on the same?
You raise a good point. What do I do with the files that the children have been working with in their personal OneDrive, in their personal MySite storage? I haven't got a clear answer for you at the moment. It's not difficult, really, for the kids to drag files down onto their desktop and drag it back up into OneDrive. Not ideal for us to have to force kids to do that. We haven't really thought through the implications of where we're going with that stuff, but I can say at the moment that we're not going to turn off MySites. MySites will continue. We'll continue to support it. As kids come into your school, we'll continue to create those personal MySite spaces so that if you're a habitual user of MySites, you can continue to use them. Because it's a bit of a change management piece to migrate your school over to a new system. What we are saying, however, is that there is a new space, and if you're new to this space or if you want to change, then that space is available to you. And for convenience sake, it's been baked into the school portal.
And has
Does that
it
answer your
done
question, Kathy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't use it a lot.
So, I'm sorry about my ignorance, right?
No.
But if the kids are going to move from MySite to OneDrive,
Yep.
that has to be done individually for them to drag their stuff into their folder then on OneDrive.
Yep. Yep. I'm expecting that a lot of the stuff, particularly in primary schools, where kids have stored things in MySites, won't have a great deal of value, and I think in most cases we'll be okay to leave it there and just leave it as orphan data and not really worry about it. For teachers' information, I would expect that not to be the case. For secondary schools, I would expect that not to be the case. I would expect that that stuff has more value attached to it. So, look, watch this space, and we'll just support you as best we can in moving that stuff.
I've used my site quite a bit because I like the collaborative opportunity for students to be able to see each other's work
Yeah.
if they're working on projects. What in OneDrive provides that same option?
Excellent question, and can I just use that as a segue into the next section? But do you mind if I just show you a couple of other things first? Sorry, I won't brush it off, but I will come back to that. There's a lot of tab opening behaviour in this new Microsoft space. I'm going to close that tab to get back to where I was. So just be aware that your back button might not always take you back. You may need to close the tab. So here I am back in my classes space. Just a quick look at the next icon. This one takes me to the BI report. You may or may not. That's time here. You may or may not be aware, if you weren't using MySites previously, but I've now got access to be able to see the BI profile for this child. And one that you haven't had access to before, this email icon. If I email there, it gives me the opportunity to email that child. Or if I tick the parent box as well, it's pretty small, I'm imagining on the screen, sorry. It's a bit easier to read. I can either email the student or I can email their parents as well. And as soon as I click compose, an email window is going to fire up on my machine with whatever email program you use, and it's got the email addresses of those folk auto-populated into the toolbar, and it's ready for you to type and send. We're having a fair bit of good feedback about that. That's an example of an idea we got from the school. So feel free to keep on contributing those ideas, both through our discussions with you on school visits and through emailing us.
And the way to send to all the children in the class?
The way to send to all children in the class is this icon at the top. I can tick students to email everyone in the class, and I can now tick the parent box to email all parents in the class. As soon as I click compose again, I've got that auto-populated in my address bar ready to go. Take note, there are safeguards built into the parent groups. We didn't want those parent groups to be misused, so therefore there are a series of safeguards in there. You have to be a member of the staff group in your school to send to that parent group. You can't just walk in off the street, or I can't just log in with a Hotmail account and expect to send to that group. That's valuable personal information. In a lot of cases, most leadership teams have said, we want to get a copy and we want to have the right of refusal to send those emails. So in most cases, when you try to send to one of these parent groups, it goes via your leadership team and they click approve and then it goes. There's a couple of others in there. But the time we have available, I won't go into the details at the moment, but there are safeguards in there.
So is that parent group expand, but then other parents can see the email, or is it just a group?
They will never know that they're a part of a group. They can't expand the group. Right. They can't see. Yep. You don't need to hide in the CC box, or sorry, the BCC box. Microsoft has thought all that through, and they've got this permissioning system so that it's impossible for people to reverse engineer their access to that list. It's quite secure. Even if they do hit reply, or reply all, it doesn't do what they think it's going to do. It won't go to the whole list. Okay, I'm going to keep on rocketing along. We don't have a lot of time left. I've shown you my classes and all classes. Groups is a Microsoft concept. It's part of a package of features called Office 365. You may or may not have heard that term before. Office 365, you'll probably hear a bit more about. Groups is this concept of being able to work with other people. Typically, I think it'll be used more for teachers, for staff groups. You might find that there's a need to collaborate with a group on your staff. It might be that you work across schools in a cross-school committee or a collaboration group of some sort, and you come across that term groups. I'm going to park that, leave that aside for the moment because we have no other time. Student search. If I want to look up an individual student and I don't know what class they're involved in, I can just type Smith in last name, and it quickly looks up all the Smiths in my school and returns those results. Nice handy one if you want to reset a password and you don't want to go through the class grouping to be able to get to that. Okay, keep on going.
Dr. can I ask you a quick question about the calendar? On your release notes a little while ago, you said that the lunchbox is no longer there for staff.
Sorry, I missed it.
The calendar, to add things to the calendar. I think one of your release notes a couple of weeks ago had something about class should be open all the staff to add to the calendar.
I can't remember any of that calendar.
On the release note, you said about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, do you mind if I come and chat to you after? Yeah. OneDrive, this is for your own non-work or non-sharing sort of documents. I won't call them personal because you wouldn't get all your wedding photos or your photos from Bali and make them up in there. Although we don't really care if you do, it's the Microsoft space. But what I'm really alluding to here is that this OneDrive space is the space that you would use for your draft documents, for your correspondence, for your notifications from HR about your work cover claim, stuff that's not appropriate to store on a school portal, stuff that you wouldn't want other people to be reading. It's a bit more confidential, it's more for you yourself. I know some people who work in OneDrive habitually and just copy stuff to their school portal as they need to. The thing about OneDrive really relates to the ownership of it. and the continuity of access to it for your school. Really, when we get paid to do our work, it's the organisation that owns that work, and so therefore we don't want to hide it away in a personalised area like OneDrive, just in case we win a lotto and we don't come back on Monday, all right? Because the school will lose access to all your brilliant planning and all that work that you've been doing. So they need access to that stuff after you've finished work. So yes, use OneDrive. Yes, make good use of it. But please be mindful of the fact that other people need access to the great stuff that you're doing, and that's what we have the school for.
You mentioned saving, sorry, but to OneDrive is basic, is it?
Oh yeah, I get to my OneDrive. At the moment, I can't really do anything except see things in here. I shouldn't say I can't do anything. I can jump in to a folder, and
Did you put all those there?
I can open. I did put all those there, yeah.
So it's mine, I've got nothing there.
No, that's all right. I would expect for most of you to see nothing there. That's all right. I've been using this for a little while.
I've been with you for a while.
Right, so I can open these things and I can edit them online, etc. If I wanted to upload stuff into here, I just click on the title. It pops up in a new window, and all I do is open up my documents and I just drag something into that location, and it's going to upload into my OneDrive. It's very easy to do. Sorry, you missed that again?
Yeah.
I'll open, so I've got my web page open with OneDrive, and I can see all the files there. Yours might not show any files at the moment. Yours might be empty.
Oh,
I'll go back a step. I think you might have previous step. I'm on the start portal.
yes, yeah, I'm good, yeah, I'm there too.
Righto? And I click on this title at the top for OneDrive, and that's going to open the whole rich experience in a new tab for me. And this is where I can really get into the meat of what OneDrive allows me to do. And I just open up my computer window, and I can drag anything from there onto OneDrive. I can even drop it into a folder by hovering over the folder and letting go. Nice and handy.